In the summer of 1720, Sir Isaac Newton, the genius who unlocked gravity, lost 20,000 pounds buying a financial bubble. That single catastrophic trade destroyed the equivalent of $3 million today and forced Newton to forbid anyone from saying South Sea near him. What most people never realize is that the exact same mental glitch that destroyed Newton is silently draining your investment account right now. You are about to learn the hidden psychological mechanism that turns brilliant, logical human beings into irrational herd animals every time money is involved. Economists have documented this pattern for over 3 centuries, yet almost nobody sits down to explain how it works in plain language. I break down one deep behavioral science concept in every single video to help you make smarter decisions with your money and life. If you want to protect your hard-earned wealth from the invisible mental traps that ruin even geniuses, subscribe now and turn on notifications. The primary reason smart people buy into obviously inflated financial assets comes down to an evolutionary survival strategy called social proof. When our early ancestors were unsure about environmental danger, looking at what the majority did was literally the difference between life and death. If 20 members of your tribe suddenly started sprinting away from a dark forest, stopping to ask for logical evidence got you eaten. Your brain evolved to treat popular consensus as valid information, which worked brilliantly for thousands of years in physical environments. But when you apply that ancient tribal software to modern capital markets, it creates a devastating financial trap that ruins brilliant investors. Psychologist Solomon Asch proved this in a legendary 1951 study where intelligent students willingly lied about simple facts just to fit in. When placed in a room filled with actors who deliberately chose the wrong line length, 75% of participants conformed at least once. Think about the last time you bought an asset simply because everyone on social media was posting about their massive overnight profits. That feeling of uncomfortable tension you felt before hitting the buy button was your logical brain surrendering to the overwhelming pressure of the crowd. But here is the part that researchers themselves found shocking when they analyzed how financial bubbles actually expand across populations. Social proof does not just make you copy other people's actions. It literally rewires your brain to perceive rising prices as guaranteed safety. Behavioral economists call this informational social influence, where you assume others possess special knowledge that you do not personally have. When you see your neighbor, your doctor, and your Uber driver all getting rich on the same asset, your brain assumes they know the secret. Legendary economic historian Charles Kindleberger tracked every major financial bubble over 300 years and found the exact same 5-stage loop. Stage 1 always begins with a genuine displacement, like a transformative new technology or a radical shift in government financial policy. Stage 2 is credit expansion, where cheap money floods the system and allows ordinary people to buy assets using dangerous amounts of leverage. Stage 3 is euphoria, where rational valuation metrics are tossed out the window because the price keeps climbing higher every single morning. During Stage 3, people stop buying the asset for its real-world utility and start buying it purely because they expect someone else to pay more. Economists officially call this the greater fool theory, and it relies entirely on social proof to keep the upward momentum alive. When financial media networks broadcast constant updates on surging prices, they amplify this psychological loop to millions of viewers simultaneously. Before I reveal the exact moment a financial mania turns into a devastating crash, stay tuned because Stage 4 contains the biggest danger. Companies and market manipulators understand social proof intimately, and they actively design financial products to exploit your fear of missing out. They build artificial scarcity counters, showcase public leaderboards of top gainers, and flood media channels with stories of everyday people becoming millionaires. When you see a notification that 50,000 people just bought a trending stock in the last hour, your evolutionary defenses completely break down. In 1637, Dutch speculators began trading tulip bulb contracts in crowded taverns, driving single bulbs to 10 times a skilled artisan's annual income. People were literally trading acres of land, valuable livestock, and entire family estates just to acquire a single rare flower bulb. Nobody actually cared about the flowers. They only cared that every wealthy merchant in Amsterdam was participating in the same wild frenzy. What you just learned about flower bulbs in the 17th century explains why smart engineers and doctors bought overpriced digital assets centuries later. What you must realize is that intelligence offers zero immunity against herd mentality because smart people are exceptionally good at rationalizing bad choices. A brilliant mind simply uses its advanced intelligence to construct complex, sophisticated justifications for following a totally irrational crowd decision. When Isaac Newton reinvested into the South Sea bubble at the absolute peak, he was emotionally overwhelmed by watching his peers prosper. Human beings are far more sensitive to relative financial loss than absolute loss, meaning watching friends get rich feels worse than losing money alone. Stay with me, because what I am about to show you in the next 2 minutes is the exact psychological circuit breaker that saves your portfolio. Stage 4 of every historic bubble is critical distress, where insiders quietly begin selling their positions to locked-in retail buyers. The asset price stops making higher highs, volatility explodes, and subtle cracks begin appearing in the prevailing social proof narrative. Professional institutional traders exit first, leaving late-arriving everyday investors holding depreciating assets that have no fundamental buyer support. Suddenly, the exact same social proof mechanism that drove the market up in a vertical line reverses direction and triggers mass hysteria. Stage 5 is total panic, where the herd suddenly realizes there are no more fools left to buy their overpriced assets. Everyone rushes for the exits simultaneously. Liquidity vanishes in seconds, and prices plummet far faster than they ever rose during the mania. The psychological shock of a sudden crash leaves most investors paralyzed, causing them to hold failing investments all the way to the bottom. When you understand how herd mentality operates, you start noticing this exact pattern unfolding across real estate, stocks, and online trends. The key to breaking free from herd mentality is developing a personal decision framework before market euphoria distorts your objective thinking. Successful long-term investors write down strict entry and exit criteria when markets are calm, so emotion cannot dictate their financial choices later. Always ask yourself whether you are buying an asset because of verified income generation, or simply because other people are talking about it. If your primary motivation for investing is the social comfort of agreeing with the majority, you are actively participating in a psychological trap. So let us pull this entire picture together so you never fall victim to a herd-driven financial bubble ever again in your life. First, recognize that your brain is hardwired by evolution to treat crowd agreement as physical safety, even when that crowd is running off a cliff. Second, remember that high intelligence does not protect you from social proof. It only gives you better vocabulary to justify your financial mistakes. Third, when you feel intense emotional pressure to buy an asset solely because everyone around you is making money, that is your signal to step away. Real financial success requires the rare courage to remain totally detached when the crowd is euphoric and aggressive when the crowd is terrified. By learning to spot social proof in action, you gain a lasting strategic advantage over 90% of participants in modern financial markets. Share this video with one friend who needs to protect their savings from the dangerous lure of market manias and social proof-driven hype. Having just one honest conversation about herd mentality today could literally save someone you care about from losing their entire life savings tomorrow.